In our modern world, the benefits of meditation are very well known, and many people have already tried it. But for some reason, for many of us, it still remains a good idea, or something that other people do. The way habits work is not a secret for science. We know a lot about how to form a habit for basically anything. In this video, I will share a few tips about how to make mindfulness a habit. These tips have helped me and other people, and many of them are based on pretty solid science. To begin with, I would invite you to sit down and take a moment to really think through what kind of a meditation routine you want, because it is very difficult to decide to do something regularly when you are not exactly sure about what you want to do. So you should ask yourself several questions before you start. Why, when, where, how, and how much you want to meditate. Let's start with why. Like with everything we do, we normally have some sort of motivator behind it, some kind of intention. Usually it is just to relax, to make ourselves feel better, to satisfy our needs, and very often, in fact for many people more often than they would wish to, we go for the kind of strategies which do not pay off very well in the long run. And meditation happens to be the kind of strategy which only makes things better with the time. So as with many good things, it is actually quite difficult to train yourself to doing it regularly. However, whenever we need to do something really important, for example, to learn a new language when we are moving to a new place, we actually feel really motivated to do it. And when we are motivated to do it, we usually are able to do it much better. In a nutshell, what meditation does to your brain is training the parts of the brain which are responsible for doing the right thing when it's the more difficult thing to do. So whenever you want to change your life in general, let's say start to eat better, a good solution to that would be to actually start meditating. Or whenever you want to do something else, let's say develop a workout routine, or start thinking of your life priorities more, or managing your emotions and moods better. For all of these matters, meditation is a very good friend. But it's important to remember that for each of us, our own personal motivation and our own personal intention is going to be personal. It's going to be individual. So it is important to understand for yourself what you want to get from meditation. Why did you decide to start it in the first place? If you have already tried it, what brought you to this experience? What were you looking for? Maybe you have heard of some things when you were listening to videos on meditation, or looking into books on meditation, or talking to other people who meditate, and something really caught your attention. It could be some kind of benefits that they have derived from their practice. So think about it. It can be really anything, and you can write it down on paper and really try to keep it in mind whenever you're having your next session. When you have a strong understanding of your why factor, it's going to be much easier to think of all other factors and think of how much effort you want to invest in it. Because for each person, the amount of effort can also be different, and that's totally fine. So the next question is when you want to meditate. Many people find it very satisfying to meditate first thing in the morning, and it's usually the recommendation that you hear from meditation teachers. And this could work really well, especially if you're one of those morning people who wake up in the morning and they immediately feel refreshed and awake and energetic. But unfortunately, not everyone is like that. And if you're one of those people who actually need a little bit of time to really wake up after you have got up, or you just need your first cup of coffee, let's put it straight. It might be wiser to actually start with your normal morning routines. Take a shower, have a light breakfast, have your tea or coffee, whatever you need, and then have a session on top of it. Why do teachers recommend people to meditate in the morning? Because once you've done it, you have done it. and it is actually quite difficult to miss unless you have overslept your work and you have to be in a hurry, but then you can always do it later during the day. But when you have built up a habit to include it into your morning routines, then it actually becomes very easy to follow it, because it's just one of the things for which you have allocated your time. But for many people that's not a realistic scenario, and that's totally okay. You can also meditate during the day. For example, design a break in your working day. Think of the time, it could be before lunch or in the middle of a big chunk of work, and you can take some 10, 15, 20 minutes of meditation, or even half an hour, and then go back to your work. It can also work very well if you meditate after your working day, to kind of draw the line between your work and your leisure time, and actually take your mind off the worries of the working day and of the whole stress that you've been through during this time. And finally, many people like to meditate in the evening because it helps them go off to sleep, and it makes them feel more relaxed, and they just feel more alert and more awake in the evening. So if you're one of those evening people, then evening can also work well for you. And you may want to experiment first with what time works better for your meditation. You could think of yourself as an evening person, but actually when you try to meditate in the evenings, you can feel a little bit tired, or maybe craving for some entertainment or relaxation, some kind of activities which don't need a lot of your focus. And you don't see yourself very much of a morning person. But when you actually try a meditation session in the morning, you might actually discover that it works really well and it makes you much more energetic. So it might take a bit of experimentation, but it is your meditation journey. The next question is where you meditate. And it might sound kind of unimportant, but actually it's not. Modern psychologists are very well aware of conditioned response and how it works. So whenever you have chosen one and the same place which you like and which you feel comfortable with for your meditation, first it serves as a reminder for your practice, and you cannot but stumble across it or just see it during the day. And if you haven't meditated, it will remind you of your commitment. And the other important factor is that your body and your mind adjust to this place and start reacting by doing what you usually do in this place. Among meditators, this is known as the so-called tuhis effect, with tuhis being the Yiddish word for butt. When you teach your butt to sit on this particular spot, and while you are doing this particular thing, your body and your mind actually remember what you are doing when your butt is on this particular spot. And this itself serves as an important factor in your meditation practice. Another important thing about the place is that when the place is nice, enjoyable, inspiring, and brings about some special mood to your practice, it actually makes you much more willing to meditate, because you associate this place with something nice, something enjoyable. There is quite a strong correlation which you can observe on your own experience between how you feel and what kind of environment you're in. We can all relate to that. When we are in the nature, when we are somewhere in a beautiful place, in a beautiful building, in a beautiful garden, in a beautifully designed room, we feel better, we feel more relaxed, we feel more satisfied and content. So whenever we sit down to meditate in a place which looks nice, smells nice, feels nice, and which you're accustomed to, you actually fortify the habit and you want to do it the next time. And the next question is my favorite question. It is the question of how. What exactly you want to do in your meditation. And the thing is that it seems like for many people it is actually a very big obstacle to their meditation, because we hear a lot about what meditation is, and very often these things can be different. There is plenty of various meditation techniques which can be classified into different categories, but we don't really need to know that to choose 1, 2 or 3 of them which work the best for us. Ideally, it's better to do it on a retreat or in a meditation group, or somewhere where someone who is more experienced can give you some advice about what could suit you. Because some techniques can be very good for some people, but not work at all for others. One of the most important techniques is the so-called mindfulness of breathing, or awareness of breath. And you can watch my previous video to learn more about it if you haven't tried it for some reason. But mostly people have tried it. The only thing with mindfulness of breathing is that it might not be as entertaining as some other techniques. But the thing with a good technique is that very often it actually opens up with some time. So you may want to give it a chance. If at first it didn't work very well for you, it may also mean that you actually need some development in this particular area. And we want to know exactly what we do in meditation, because just sitting on the cushion is not necessarily meditation. The reason why I would recommend choosing 1, 2 or 3 techniques for your meditation, for your regular practice, is actually because sometimes we might need different things in our practice. You may also discover that you want to do a different thing in the morning from what you want to do in the evening. And also the techniques tend to fortify each other. When we get into one of them, it actually can be an entrance into the next technique. So we want to experiment with different objects for our mindfulness practice to really discover how it works and to really be able to train our mind in the most versatile fashion. Some meditation techniques can work to make your mind more focused, more alert, and to make you more productive as a result of that, and to also make you a little bit more energetic. So you may want to do them in the morning rather, whereas in the evening you would probably do something more relaxing, which helps you let go of the day, which helps you realign with your body and ground yourself more in the sensations. And now the final question is how much you want to meditate. And you hear very different instructions for that. It can range from 10 minutes or even like 3 or 5 up to 2 hours. 2 hours is probably too much for most people, at least in the beginning. The general rule of thumb when you're choosing the length of your practice is that you should emphasize quality over quantity. So you should do as much practice as feels good to do, as you're able to do well. If your sessions are too long, then you may often feel very irritated at the end of them, bored, and that results in a conditioned response to actually make you want to do less of it in the future and not more of it. Whereas when you are ending up on that sweet note when you could still meditate a little bit more, then that would naturally motivate you to want to do it more in the future. Tibetans like to give an example of a friend staying at your place. You would probably more likely to be looking forward to seeing this person again as soon as possible if your meeting was not too long. It was long enough for you to enjoy it, but they didn't overstay your hospitality. At the same time, it is also important to choose the length of the session which is not too short for you, because for some people it takes a little bit of time before they actually adjust. Their body and their mind adjust to the meditation posture and to the technique. Sometimes our mind can just be too busy, it's full of other things, and we can only start really to meditate after 10 or 15 minutes into the session. So you don't want to keep your session less than that, because then you will only be trying to meditate but never really get to that sweet spot just yet. So while for some people 5, 10, 15 minutes can be alright, for other people it's better to choose 20, 25, 30 minutes. But whichever way, the amount of meditation should be comfortable, and it also should be something which you can easily keep in your schedule, which won't create more stress in your life. The next important tip is to actually try to sweeten your practice as much as possible. And to begin with that, you really want to exclude all the possible obstacles to meditation, such as messages that you receive on your phone or your children that might be bothering you during the meditation. So if you have someone else to take care of them for 20-30 minutes, you could ask them to actually help you out with this practice. And also the same goes for your phone. Sometimes for some people, especially if your phone is usually quite busy, it's better to put it into flight mode for the session. And you can also think of some other obstacles in your life which could make it complicated or which could interrupt you in the middle. And you could try to think of how you could avoid these things before the meditation to really create comfortable conditions for the practice, so that you don't have to try to extinguish these things during the session and interrupt it completely. Another way to make your practice sweeter is to combine it with something that you like doing. It can be a light working out or a walk. It can also be some other self-help thing, such as sauna or a bath. And if your time allows you, then you could add a little bit of meditation before that or after that. The same goes for whatever religious practice you follow or spiritual practice, such as Qigong, prayer. You can check what effect it gives when you add a little bit of meditation before this practice or after this practice, and how it makes you feel. It will also make your practice sweeter if you add a few minutes to realign with your motivation and with your innermost intention for starting the practice. When you begin it, also to recall your gratitude for this opportunity to practice, for this time that you are dedicating to your own well-being at the end of the practice. And the final rule here will be to not beat yourself up when you are not coping with your meditation routine every single day. Sometimes it can just be too much, or sometimes we can miss it because we're ill or feeling distressed, or even just too lazy to do anything at all. But we speak of the so-called 2-day rule. So if you have missed not more than 2 days, then you can just forgive yourself and move on. It's very important not to create another stress factor of your meditation. You really want to keep it something that you want to do and not just have to do. The next tip, somewhat paradoxically, is to actually try to make yourself meditate even when you don't feel like doing it. Sometimes we might be going through a really rough and distressing time and a real emotional turmoil, and just sitting quietly, focusing on your breath may feel like the last thing you want to do in this kind of state. This is exactly the time when we turn to our bad habits, the habits that usually bring us instant reward. And meditation doesn't actually always work this way. But at the same time, these are exactly the times when we need it most. There is a good Zen saying: everyone should meditate 20 minutes a day, unless they're very busy. Then they should meditate for 1 hour. Even though when our mind is really agitated and racing, it may not feel very enjoyable in the beginning, when we actually get ourselves to do it, even through just rough self-discipline, we actually notice that after a while, focusing on the breath feels much better than actually running after the stressful thoughts. It can be a little bit like entering cold water in the beginning. It's the 10th of June and my first swim of the year. The water is plus 17 degrees Celsius and the air is plus 20. Let's go! In the beginning it takes a little bit of time to adjust and it feels really bad. But then when you relax into the situation and just start doing your thing and continue swimming, you get used to it and you continue enjoying the swim. It feels much better afterwards. And then it really feels much better afterwards. And usually after you have a meditation session during a time like this, you can really see the immediate effect of the practice. Another tip for the times when you are in crisis and really don't feel like meditating just because you are too distressed, especially this tip would go well for the people who already have a little bit of foothold with mindfulness practice. And this tip is just to observe the crisis. So try to focus on how the situation manifests in your mind, how you're feeling emotionally, how it manifests in the body, where you can locate it in the body, how you can notice the connection between your emotions, your thoughts, and your body sensations, and how they change with the time, how they develop. And just by being a witness to the mad situation which is happening in your mind or in your life, you can actually relax in this observer position, as paradoxical as it sounds. And even when your schedule makes it physically impossible to have a session, don't give up. You can still have those micro meditations during the day, when you're drinking your coffee or drinking your water, when you're walking from one place to another, when you're taking a lift or taking the stairs. Even your bathroom time can be turned into meditation time, and this way you're winning a few minutes a day for yourself. And the last point is maintaining your interest. We humans are social animals, and it is easier for us to do the kind of things which other people also do. So if you want to keep up a good meditation habit, it can really make sense to join a group, or to find an online course or an offline course, or even go for an offline retreat, or even find a friend who also meditates and talk about it. You can also follow various online sources, including subscribing to this channel. And you can also find meditation challenges and start with one of those. You can find my meditation challenge in the description below. Once you have developed a habit for 10 days, 2 weeks, or 1 month of meditation, it makes it much easier to keep, because you know you can do it and you can already feel some effects. Also, some good literature, a good book or two, can serve the same purpose. This way you can exchange impressions with other meditators, hear other people's stories, receive some tips and new ideas for your practice, and also get some peer pressure and peer support. And just the mere realizing that you're not alone in this, and that you're part of the huge global meditating community, already makes you feel much better. It makes you feel like you belong with this thing, and it actually makes you feel much easier to stick to this meditation habit, because this is what you are. That was it for today. If you found it useful, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumb up. And see you next time. Bye bye!